Hello and welcome to another Ask Cheeky. I'm Isaiah Hankel from Cheeky Scientist. This week's question is a short one, comes from Jeremy Goldstein. What is product development? Great question, Jeremy. This is something that a lot of PhDs don't think about because most of us spend our time in innovation, in research, at the conception side of industry. So in industry, you can think of everything that's done by a company on a large spectrum. And this is oversimplifying just for teaching purposes here. And on that spectrum, we have the conception of a product on one end, and then we have the support, like the technical support, the customer support of that product on the other end after it's being sold in the marketplace. So the half that's closest to conception is the innovation half, and the half that's closest to the support of the product once it's in the marketplace is commercialization. As a PhD, you've probably heard the phrase translation or translational research or translational work. That means actually translating knowledge into a product, which of course requires product development. Product development is very important, whether the product is a service or is a drug, a treatment, a instrument, a software, an app. Either way, creating products is what creates money for a company. Products equals profits. Very often, once a company has entered a marketplace, they have a business model, they have been able to scale and become profitable. The key to them continuing to grow is producing more and more products. A lot of companies are based on one flagship product that took off and a lot of extra products that aren't superstar products, but they do add some revenue growth, maybe some profitability, extra profitability to the company. So why am I giving you this background, this context? Because it's very important. Whether you want to eventually start your own business one day and be a PhD CEO, or whether you want to work for different size businesses, as you climb to the top of any business, product development becomes more and more important, just like business development. And when you are thinking about producing a product, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is you thinking it's a good idea and liking it, or it being right based on one piece of data or a bunch of experiments, and therefore investing a lot of time, effort, resources on a company side, a lot of money, a lot of human capital into it. Don't do that. Instead, you need to test. You need to get quantitative and qualitative feedback. You need to go through three key processes. The first, ideation, idea validation. So you're going to have an idea for a product. Maybe it came up during a meeting with some other executives. Maybe you had a lot of customer feedback and the team brought it to you. It's from the voice of the customer, the VOC. Either way, there's this idea. It sounds amazing. You love the idea. Have you tested it though? Are you going to back it with millions of dollars of company money? Are you going to support it? Are you going to tell your superiors to put a lot of time and energy and resources? If you managed a department, are you going to have your team work on it? Hopefully not until you test that idea. Focus groups, right? There's some qualitative feedback. You can talk to some of your key opinion leaders, your KOLs in the marketplace. These could be clinicians if you're a pharma company. It could be other PhDs using your instrument if you're a biotech company that creates research use only devices. Either way, you want to get some qualitative feedback, but you can get some quantitative feedback too, of course. You can send out surveys, you can do polls, you can generate data on the initial idea itself. What do you think of this? Would you use this or this? And as an experimenter, as a PhD, you know how to best create a question or a hypothesis and how to test it better than most people do. The second phase is creating a value proposition. So taking that idea and turning it into a proposal of value. So what value are you going to give the customer? What value is this product going to give? And that can be broken down into two things. What pain points is it going to alleviate? What benefits is it going to provide? You didn't think I was going to go this deep into product development, but this is important for you to understand as a PhD. You've likely never thought about it. Because as PhDs, again, if you think about R&D in general, we have a lot of the R, which is the research in R&D, very little of the D, of the development, especially with product development, whether it's drug development, whether it's an instrument development, whether it's even development at a larger scale, the business size. We don't do that during our PhD in most cases. So the value proposition is important, and you want to align that value proposition with a target market. Not just all the customers a business has, but usually to start, a very specific segment, sometimes called a vertical of that market, of the company's market. If you're a startup, it might be identifying your ideal customer to start with and then growing a market from that. The third step is to create what is called a minimum viable product, an MVP. The days of creating a perfect product or going and spending years like you did in your PhD to getting the best thesis possible and thinking that you could be somehow perfect and you were never going to fail. Hopefully all that's behind you. You realize as an innovator that failure comes hand in hand with discovery. Same's true in business. When you're developing a product, failure is apparent. And the worst thing that you can do is spend 6 months, years on a product and create something that nobody wants. Now, there's a lot of examples of this. One of my favorites is the Segway. Remember that bike, scooter type device that cost a couple $1,000s that you would scoot around like this on? It had 2 wheels at the base, and then you'd go like this. And it was produced, had tons and tons of investors, and it flopped. It failed for a variety of reasons. One, people would faceplant a lot. And 2, people didn't like how they looked on it. It looked very, I don't know, like it looked very stiff, dorky. It wasn't like riding a bike. There was no exercise involved. It looked like lazy and a little bit nerdy. Anyway, for whatever reason, it didn't work. And this was despite a lot of testing. The problem was they didn't put out a minimum viable product, something simple, similar to it that would have cost maybe a few $100s versus a few thousand that people could have tried, and they would have found out that nobody likes this. Nobody wants to stand up on a straight scooter with 2 wheels at the base. And they would have learned that much earlier before they produced the final product. So this is what is very important to do in product development. Not always possible. Obviously, if you're creating a life-saving drug, of course, that's what a clinical trial is for too, to hopefully improve a drug, improve the delivery system for the drug, etc. The key for you, no matter what business you're getting into, what your role is in product development, certainly if you're working for a startup, is always encourage them to create a minimum viable product, something that's just viable enough to survive the marketplace enough to get feedback. What do these 3 phases have in common? Ideation, the value proposition creation, and finally the minimum viable product development it's testing, experimentation, getting data as soon as possible, feedback, qualitative and quantitative. And that's what will make a product successful. So see your product as an experiment, see it as the translation of knowledge into something that the market wants, something you can continually improve. And this will help you understand the mindset of industry, especially in terms of product development. As always, remember your value as a PhD and start thinking and acting like a successful industry professional.